Welcome to the Apex Perspective podcast. My name is Aryan Mohindra, and today's episode is sponsored by Mind and Body Mastery, in which we provide CEOs and founders with tailored health programs. Now, I started my health journey at 240 pounds. To date, I've lost over 70 pounds, and something I took away was with health, the consequences come very fast and they hit very hard. Given that, my specific objective with Mind and Body Mastery is to lead CEOs and founders to live longer and healthier lives by leveraging location independent movement, which you can do anytime and anywhere, such as walking, which is exactly how I lost over 70 pounds. If you'd like to learn more about that, check out mindandbodymasteryfitness.com, in which you get access to free resources that give you more insight to this perspective and will save you years of mistakes on your own health journey. Today we have Charlie Szoradi, CEO at OnlyKale. Charlie, tell me more about your experience and how it led to OnlyKale.
Aryan, thank you for having me on the podcast today. And I'll tell you, I really appreciate your opener about walking because I got certified as a personal trainer through the National Academy of Sports Medicine. And that is sort of the tail end of a journey that involves sustainable living. So big plus for you, get out there moving. Motion and what you put in your body are the two combinations, in addition to sleep, that give you health and wellness. And the science now is out there about mental connection too, physical, mind, body, spirit. So, God bless you. Godspeed going forward on your health.
Thank you.
Your health journey. I'll wind the clock back to the undergraduate days at the University of Virginia as an architect. So back in the day, I had an interest in sustainable design. And this was before anyone really cared about electric cars and AI and robotics and even climate change. Well, it turns out that in the grad school run, so this is University of Pennsylvania, I was very fortunate to have Kinya Maruyama as a professor. He had been a traveling instructor coming from Tokyo at some of the other Ivy League schools and happened to be in the year I was there as a studio instructor. He ended up not only teaching me, but hiring me to go work in Japan, which was incredible as an environmental enthusiast, like literally a guru of sustainable design. I got the bug, and this is back in the early 90s, into adaptive reuse and wellness, not just for the building with, solar panels and wind power and everything, but how the elements inside, the volatile organic compounds that are in things like furniture and glues, could be purged out of our basically environment, that it was about wellness, not just saving money on the utility bill. And at that point, I was really kind of frustrated because as a sort of progressive thinker, politically sort of in the center, but on the left, thought it's too bad that America doesn't see clean energy and sustainable design as a cause that could be for all of us. I didn't love the way it got politicized as sort of green equaled the left movement. And it should be an American cause for wellness, for the body and the buildings. And over the course of this arc of my career in 3 decades as a designer, realized that lighting was a big deal. And so what happened is I pivoted into LED lighting, and for almost 15 years produced with Independence LED lighting, the first US manufacturer of basically what are Buy American Act compliant lights, not only for building efficiency, but for growing plants. And it was really, really interesting to be ahead of that curve because for so many years, and it's still the case today, almost 90% or more sometimes of vegetables are grown in California and moved all the way across the country. So I got fascinated in this journey towards the OnlyKale business with indoor agriculture and locally grown farming. Because when you move produce halfway across the continent, or in sometimes all the way across the continent, you have 4 or 5 days of transit. And if it's refrigerated, you've killed those plants and they start to lose their nutrients. So you can somehow, try and stop this, but unless you grow locally, you're really going to lose 20, 30% sometimes of these nutrients. So local farming became an interesting angle for me in terms of how you could take empty warehouse buildings, adaptively reuse them for indoor agriculture. And we started growing romaine lettuce and bibhead lettuce and kale and all kinds of things. And it's not unusual that also things pop up like the cannabis guys would call, and they wanted the lights to grow, marijuana because it was going to cost less in terms of the electricity footprint. We were 10% of the cost to run the same photons, and did adjustments
Wow.
into all the sensitivity of nanometers. So I'm sharing all of this with you because it led to the kale as a superfood, and thinking that if we can have the combination of indoor and also outdoor growing, and we can freeze dry it right on the farms, we can reduce the weight by 90%. So 1/10 of the weight for shipping, and it's shelf stable without the need for refrigeration. Just to give you some perspective on this, I thought I was helping to save the planet and dollars by making smart buildings and transportation. Have a solar house, have an electric car. Those are great because transportation is about 14% of greenhouse gas emissions for cars, and buildings are about 6%. The production and movement, transportation of food, is 24% of greenhouse gas emissions, almost a quarter. So all the
Wow.
things I had been doing to help reduce my operating costs for businesses and personally, and for the planet, were not making as big of an impact as if we changed in some way the food supply chain. So there is the lead up to OnlyKale with the freeze drying and the stick packs to have a superfood that has all the benefits for eyes, skin, hair, the heart, bones, immune system, detox, and for fitness, recovery, energizing, strength, and also for weight loss. So it was like, why
Okay.
not superfood? There's the long story of a journey that took 3 decades compressed into a few minutes.
Excellent, excellent. And so, what makes kale different with regards to the superfood in comparison to others?
Great call. So when you have the antioxidants and the vitamins, what you have is the ability to basically help with the immune system and the detox do some things differently than maybe the spinach and maybe the broccoli. So they're all good. Don't get me wrong, because the play is definitely to have a combination of things. So the big 3 for the veggies are the kale, the spinach, and the broccoli. And then for the fruits, it's the blueberries, the raspberries, and even the strawberries. But what we found is that kale was just at the top as one of the most nutrient dense foods on earth. So I started with what will be part of a growing OnlyKale family of basically freeze dried superfood powders. And the kale felt like the most logical. It's not like you should just only eat kale. It's OnlyKale as a name, because what we put in the stick packs, the single serve stick packs, is 100% organic freeze dried kale. And instead of
Okay.
having to read, like 20 things that are inside of some of the powders and some of the potions, this is OnlyKale. There will be other onlys. There will be a family that we will roll out as an entrepreneur. But the idea was to start with the one that had the most dense nutrients per gram.
I love it. And so let's talk about the weight loss factor. I know that you used to be a personal trainer. Is that right?
Still am, yep.
And I've lost over 70 pounds, so I think this will be a great discussion here. So one of the things that how I view food and intake is, with calories, I look at it as an investment, right? So however many calories I'm consuming, I look at what's the return on that. Is it going to give me enough protein content? Is it going to is it going to make me feel full, etc.? So how do you view kale, your product, to be a useful case for weight loss?
It's an unbelievable setup question. So thank you. So this stick comes in a box of 15. And in that, we have all the nutrient facts. This took forever. This is more than a year in the making with the USDA certification for organic, but 5 calories. So imagine that you could go in a recommended daily portion control with 3 vegetable servings. And one of those is only 5 calories. And we did this because I was growing kale for years and still do at home with over 60 heads that I grow indoors just for my own use and give it to like friends. And going to the beach for the weekend, going on a weekend trip to a conference or an expo, I was taking bags of the freshly cut kale. I thought, my God, Charlie, please. It's like over the top, right? It's like the people in the restaurants that always order something special, like on the side. I didn't want to
Yeah.
be the guy that had to carry all that sort of friction. So the idea of the powder came from my personal interest in having it something that I could throw in with the toothbrush and the dental floss and like maybe some shampoo. So it was like the Dob kit, the little toiletry bag. And the idea of making it fast, affordable, and convenient was part of that trigger, so that you include it with, in my morning shake, the whey protein and the creatine, mix it in and shake it. You don't have to blend it with a grinder and clean the tools, right? Tear and go. So for weight loss, 5 calories, to stay on your point, is ridiculously small compared to the delta, the ROI of the nutrients. And where we have to be so careful in this country is with the advertising for this barrage, this like shotgun of supplements and magic potions for all kinds of things, whether it's down to the eye cream or the things for hair loss, all that stuff. We are making a very simple statement that Mother Earth created something. It's called a superfood, kale. It's a foundation. You're not going to solve all your problems with OnlyKale. You're going to take it each day like I have for now over 6 months, and going way back for when it was just kale before it was powderized, and use that as the foundation so that your body has some of the core nutrients to then do the other things. Not a keto diet, not an extreme carnivore or vegan. There's so many fat extreme diets. The thinking for weight loss is whole foods. If you can see the source of the thing that has come from the earth, it's probably better than the stuff in the center of the grocery store. I'm not going to pick on a particular potato chip that begins with a P and comes in a tube, but it's not actually a lot of potatoes, right? When they shaped sort of like potatoes and they take out the fiber and they add the salt, well, like if you shop the perimeter of the grocery store, those are whole foods. Combine them. Don't eat too much, simple carbs, right? Try and cut out some of the bread and the pasta, but basically eat things that came from earth, and the animals that have eaten things that came from earth instead of antibiotics. So there's the Charlie theory of weight loss. Move your ass in terms of walking and some exercise, some resistance training if you can get it in there. And I run for the Olympic triathlon training, the swim a mile, bike the 25 and run the 10K. That's pretty extreme, but like at 58 years old, I'm trying to stay ahead of the curve because I have a 19-year-old son, so I keep up with as much as I can. There's
2 questions for you.
That weight loss story.
Absolutely, and that's amazing. So 2 questions for you. One is, what can people expect to feel after consuming OnlyKale for about a couple months? And the other thing I was going to ask you is there a specific kind of person that you would recommend give this a go?
Okay, so here's what's great about nutrition. If things are spokes on the wheel will run smoother. There is absolutely nothing very, very specific if you just had OnlyKale powder, right? It is a tool that is part of a toolbox. No question. This is not some snake oil story. Oh my God, your hair is going to grow back. It's good for hair and eyes and skin because it is part of that foundation, and it has the key vitamins. Like I have right on the website, the breakdown, the lutein, the zeaxanthin, and the vitamin A support eye health. You're not going to get 20/20 vision if you need glasses today, but it's part of preventive medicine to maintain that strong foundation for health. For the skin, it's the vitamin C. And so with collagen production, super important, especially as people start getting older and you're losing the collagen, and then those antioxidants. For the hair, it's going to be also C and vitamin A, and then iron to help maintain the stronger hair. These are not complicated concepts, right? Again, foundation, not a total fix. And then for weight loss, obviously the low calories helps with all the nutrient advantages. The energy piece, you'll start to feel a little more energized, is the vitamin B vitamins, and also the B6, which is it's pronounced pyridoxine. And getting into the metabolics of this is not what I think we want to do today, but I'm just reading off from our website. I
Sure.
print all this stuff to have it right at hand. Recovery is interesting with magnesium for post-exercise recovery. So while you may not feel like stronger right away, you might be able, instead of waiting 2 or 3 days, to wait 1 or 2 days to get back into the gym.
Mhm.
Small things like that, again, are foundational for the health. With the heart, potassium, great. Fiber and that vitamin K. So now cardiovascular health is like your pump. This goes back to the architect in me, the HVAC system, heating, ventilating, and air conditioning, super important to run a building. And the heart,
Right.
your pump, super important to running your body. This whole transition from like sustainable buildings to sustainable bodies has driven me towards this sort of entrepreneurial, pivot in the career. With bones, it's the K and the calcium. With the detox, it's some of that, it's basically the fiber and some of these detoxifications for digestion, like glucosinolates. Great.
Mhm.
Kale's got more than what pharma could do with $1 trillion. Like Mother Earth gave us this. And then finally, the immune system is the number 10 last benefit you will start to feel is with the C and A and the antioxidants. You may not get as sick. So if there's an influenza or a flu, I have luckily genetically some advantage where I never missed a day of school between high
Mhm.
school, A through 12, all that, grad school and college. So lucky me, but also have been eating well like my whole life. So if you look at the stats for COVID, really, really sad. The underserved communities that do not often have the income level and some of the education about food and less access to food because of food deserts, where the corner little, convenience store is not exactly a grocery store. Their rate of COVID in terms of severity and also death was higher than in areas where people were eating more fresh vegetables. And there's statistics now about vegan and vegetarians having stronger immune systems and less cases of COVID. So that immune system with the OnlyKale is a small benefit you may not feel as a total advantage at first, but if you don't get sick or sick at all, it may
Mhm.
be because you've had it. So those are that hidden foundation levels. Okay. Second part of your question.
Mhm.
These are long answers, but I'm the enthusiastic entrepreneur.
Sure.
Who it's good for? How about people that are on the move that do not have time to get 3 portions of vegetables a day? Are they flight attendants and pilots? Are they people on business travel? Are they weekend warriors? Right. So these are people of any age, but basically in business that are on the move. Now that's
Mhm.
real because it's a stat from the FDA and some of these government studies, which we scour, where something like 90% of America does not get enough vegetables a day. They don't get all 3 of their servings. So if this is one of 3, then you can probably have something at lunch or dinner, right? But some people in the
Mhm.
world, like when I lived in Japan and Eastern Europe, have more veggies with their breakfasts, right? So like they're balancing out their vegetable consumption over the day. So people that are on the move don't have that luxury. There's often, whether it's in airports or on the road, fast food or convenience food that is not full of vegetables and
Right.
nutrients. We see this as kind of like an electrolyte, like a liquid IV or something that you take when you need something, and that's the difference between someone who would want to be on a daily consumption. Keep some stick packs in your bag for the days you don't get it. The other one is the people that are looking to truly pivot, hit a New Year's resolution, make a change that's positive, and take it every day, right? So there's the kind of the
Mhm.
travelers that want to have it on demand, and then there's the people that would go daily. And those could be also of any age, whether it's someone who's a college athlete that's really trying to boost their strength and their fitness levels, or someone that's in a retirement home. Heard from one of the customers that his mother wasn't getting at the retirement home vegetables because the doctors and nurses were saying, well, she can't eat the carrots, they're too hard and crunchy, and they were giving her jello and like maybe some mashed
Yeah.
potatoes. Mixing this in with food is really interesting for people that may not have an appetite or an ability to get as many of the vegetables, because it has the fiber still in it. So that's the kind of the mix. The fun stuff is people are putting it in mocktails and kale cocktails, like daiquiris and margaritas. So there's a social side to it, which is just kind of a fun nuance. But moms that have kids that are complaining, I hate mom, I hate to eat vegetables, sneaking it into food, soups, salad dressings, right? Lasagna, all kinds of things. So if you're alive in America and are between a crib and a wheelchair, like in hospice, you're a customer to have some OnlyKale.
Right. Okay. And so now I want to learn more about you, Charlie. The first part I want to learn was about the environmental aspect. Many people say they care about the environment, but you've actually taken action. Why is this important to you?
So I think it was 8th grade. Jimmy Carter had put solar panels on the White House, and I went with my friend Pete and Bill, and we won the popular prize for the science fair with Omega Boat of the Future, solar-powered ship. Great. And I thought, this is cool stuff. There was something in it about self-reliance that empowered me, that we could use something from the sun. We could use the wind. We could reuse and repurpose materials. And the idea of planting things then became really interesting to me, because if you reduce that transportation need, it was about cost. So behind me, the plan, plant, planet message became a sort of a mantra for how we could plan for things in the future. We could plant our ground with seeds to grow something that was productive, which is kind of like a miracle, right? Spring comes, with rebirth. And then with the planet, there was a benefit for us as well as the place that we all live. Okay, so this was a cause that I've been on for 3 decades. Cover of Inventor's Digest magazine, probably almost 20 years ago, when I built the combination solar hot water, thermal tank system, radiant floor system for a near net zero house that I happen to live in and raise the family in the suburbs of Philadelphia. Having something very similar now down at the Jersey Shore with the rainwater collection, the edible garden instead of just flowers. There's everything from the beach plum and the blueberries to flowering risotto roses that have like the ability to turn the plum berries into jam. Like thinking what can help benefit ourselves and the planet concurrently, not just like try and make some money or try and save the spotted owls. It was like, how can we live on this planet intelligently? And that's been driving me ever since, all the way through the lighting initiative, and feel honestly, it's Aryan, like empowered when you can make something that comes from the earth that is creating benefits. That was the driver.
I love it. And one more question regarding about mindset and about more about you is, what guides what principles guide your decision making?
So if it's a 3-part play, which is good for me, good for the community, and good for the planet, then I've hit the right solution. So community could mean our staff, family, friends, members in a small town or in the country, where we're hopefully now with the Veterans Affairs Administration going to take a group that has been often underemployed after deployment in the private sector to help grow and learn agri-tech for some of the indoor farming and the freeze drying and the organic farming in communities of need. So the underserved community, the active veterans would get, not active servicemen and women on bases would get the benefit of the produce, whether it's leaf kale grown locally or in our case powderized, but people serving those who have served is really interesting. So this idea of like, if it's good for Charlie because I'm feeling better directly and honestly making some dollars, and it's good for the community, creating jobs for people and wellness for them. And then if it doesn't have a burden on the planet, because moving this stuff is 1/10 of the weight and doesn't require refrigeration, now we're winning. right? Three-part plan.
I love it. And so now let's shift a little bit more to health. I know that you and I probably can have a good conversation regarding this. So I started my journey at 240 pounds, and the consequences I was hit with very quickly was a blood pressure issue, was the prediabetes, was the insulin, all these different factors. And the other thing that I found was very difficult was moving in and having a low quality of life. So given these consequences, I want to get your perspective on what it is you think is the biggest barrier to enter into health and fitness for CEOs and founders.
Okay, so let's talk first about behavioral change techniques. So part of my training with the National Academy of Sports Medicine is about behavioral changes. There are techniques, for example, habit stacking. So for an individual, we'll talk about first, and then we'll talk about the habit stacking for CEOs for the entrepreneurial path. If we are barraged by marketing and advertising for all the latest gadgets and the ease for a sedentary life. Remember, I grew up in a world where you had to get off your ass on the sofa and turn the dial on the TV. You're a little younger. You've had a remote control in your world. And now with the phone, you don't even have to push a button. You can just like talk to it and it'll change the freaking channel, right? So the game becomes how you create change and you motivate people to get moving like you did. Is it aspirational for their own future health? Is it for aesthetics? Is it because they have a new relationship in their life? Do they want to be able to be an example that's positive for their children? Whatever the motivation is, you can start with some simple habits. Get up, drink 6 ounces of water. Make sure you turn off, before you do anything else, turn off your phone and the TV at least an hour before you go to bed. Try and, compress for some alternate intermittent fasting, days where you eat within 8 hours. Like you just start with a few things that are not like life-changing that can be done. And those can build on each other, which is called the habit stacking. Now, for a CEO, not that much different. If there's inertia, which is the sedentary mindset of the human experience, can also set in for the CEOs where they found a way to make money and they've done it a certain way. And it's kind of like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, how about no one sells single serve stick packs of freeze dried kale? Fine. I didn't come to that from my studies at UPenn, taking Wharton business classes while I was getting my master's degree as an architect. It came to me because I wanted to have it for myself. And I thought, if I want it, maybe 1 or 2 other people or 10,000 or 1 million want it too. So getting the CEO mindset into disrupting is not necessarily like the Elon Musk, Starlink, the genius of like connecting the web through, the atmosphere. Great. That's a big lift. SpaceX catching rockets. Pretty impressive. I'm talking about small moves in sectors like this food space, where once you do research, I would encourage all the entrepreneurs to think outside of the box critically about their sector. So for example, I was on a 3-decade path with buildings for sustainability, solar power and transportation too, to try and make an impact on the environment. Only learned that the combination of the buildings and the cars was about 20% of greenhouse gas contribution versus 24% for food. So all that work that I was thinking was on the right path was fine, but not as potentially effective as an ROI as the sector of the food production space. And anyone listening who's an entrepreneur, there may be something that is a sibling, a tangent to what you're currently doing to explore, right? Because I didn't change everything. I was growing the food with the lights. So then it became growing the food with the lights and freeze drying and finding organic farms that were outdoors to freeze dry and just pivot. That little pivot is, they call it in business, making the wheel rounder. You're not changing the whole wheel, but it's the ask for the CEOs to pause in a handful of moments. Is it once a month you have a lunch with someone that is in a parallel business, just to explore what they're doing and almost push yourself to learn things that aren't part of your direct vertical for business, and open some doors.
And so I want to give a little bit of my input quickly before we end off. I think the biggest problem in health and fitness is not what many people think it is, which is time, the discipline problem. It's understanding what truly drives change in your health, and that is the calories in and calories out idea. You must be in a negative energy balance. Meaning you're burning more calories than you're taking daily. If you understood that, you would understand that time isn't the problem. It's the systems in place that to create that change that's a problem. Most fitness routines are not adaptable for CEOs and founders. So the primary approach that I use to fix this is utilizing walking. I have a picture here. I went from barely being able to stand
Look at you. That's awesome.
to lose over 70 pounds by leveraging walking. And the reason why that worked was because I was adhering to the negative energy balance. So my main thesis here is you need to focus on what actually drives change and then create a system that fits your life to make that happen. So I want to get your perspective when utilizing walking as a tool for CEOs and founders. What do you think about that? Do you think that's doable?
Okay, I love it. I'm 100% on board. I love also the first law of thermodynamics, that energy is neither created nor destroyed. So all we are is energy, right? When you zoom in on the human body at the atomic level, all you see is the electron particles. There's this incredible stat, which I will leave people with, which is if you think of an atom in high school or grade school, they showed you like the nucleus at the center, and then it looks like the little jets and loops, running around it. The nucleus is so small relative to the atom that we're basically all just air, like connected with electrical charges. The nucleus is the size of a marble if you put it in a football stadium to the atom. It's unbelievable. Yeah. So like you can send particles through our body. We're basically all just an electrical charge. So what you're saying about walking makes the most sense. You have to have that balance where the fuel that you put in is X, and it needs to be like you are doing X 1.1 of energy so that to lose weight, you have that delta, right? If you just have X come in and then you only use X or sub X as energy, boop, 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 you start to carry that unnecessary weight. And I always go back to the hunter-gatherers. I had a good fortune of in Kenya and in part of the Aberdare Mountains between Bukavu, Zaire, and Kamembe, Rwanda, tracking the silverback gorillas and doing some incredible research and experience there, as well as in like the Galapagos Islands. So I've been fortunate to work and travel all over the world. The lesson in Africa was with the basically the Masai Mara, these warriors that would they were run and walk hunters. So instead of like 6 of us, Aryan, go hunting in the big bison or the wildebeest with spears, it's really hard to kill a wild animal with a stick and a sharp stone, right? They would run after the gazelle. The gazelle would have to pant it out after a few hundred yards. And over 2 or 3 hours, the Masai Mara warriors would catch the gazelle, exhaust it, because we can evaporate heat through our body. They would walk, they would run. They were basically travel hunters. This animal is so tired, they throw a stick at it, falls over, it goes cardiac arrest, and then they kill it and eat it. The point is, walking has been all part of the human experience. Hunting and foraging involved walking and running, just moving. So motion in any form is awesome. I will tell you that resistance training, lifting some metal, some things, in conjunction with the walking, is also great for weight loss, because you have
absolutely
the stress, and you want to put your body into like a position where it needs to react, right, with the resistance training. So if you can combine, and I was 220, I'm now 180, 84, 85,
congratulations.
And like put it into the mindset of like, maybe not 220, 215. I think that the top was just in the grind of work, failed to realize that I was letting things slip. It's just really interesting. I was in that sedentary life mindset of like, my accomplishment goal of getting something done in the day was business related, did not have the companion of fitness. I'm now more productive in business because I'm more physically fit. As a tip for the CEOs, take the time to get fit and enjoy the time to experiment with verticals in business. that might be a pilot program, something to test that is outside of that original, maybe vertical to explore in the sustainability sector. So it's like, this is the mind, body, spirit message, right? Which is get up and
Absolutely.
move, eat healthy food, and think creatively for a better lifestyle.
Love it. And just briefly, what are your next year plans with regard to OnlyKale?
So we have, with expansion, retail, we've signed some new retail, basically. Think of the grocery stores as one of the plays, and then also with lifestyle venue that have retail stores, and it's basically health food locations, TikTok shop, Amazon, Walmart, Fair, our own onlykale.com website, all the e-commerce is there. But the real big push is going to be into this next year, the what I will call the legit influencers. So there are hundreds of thousands of certified personal trainers through the National Academy of Sports Medicine, where I got my training, the yoga instructors, the Pilates instructors. Basically, the plan is to build a network of not influencers that are necessarily attractive 20-something, men and women on Instagram pitching, something, but authentic users of product. One of them is one of my instructors for a cardio event that I do on Tuesdays, at my gym, who's been in the game for decades and is a total pro, who is a consumer as well as an advocate, right? So it's really about building that awareness for the growth of OnlyKale through the people that are legitimate active users and enthusiasts, sending in recipes, sending in ways that they do it, and then through their friend network and their people that they have contact with, could be their students. One's going to be an instructor for field hockey for girls' high school sports that is on board to introduce it to the students and their parents. So it's really a grassroots play. Don't expect to see any big TV commercials at the Super Bowl for OnlyKale just yet, but it's going to come from the ground up. That's a good analogy, right? From the ground up.
Yes, I love it. And thank you for joining me today, Charlie. I really appreciate it.
Happy to be here. And if there's another opportunity to connect, invite me back.
Sure. This was Aryan Mohindra and Charlie Szoradi. Thank you for listening.